I thought I had it all figured out. Amanda and I were college sweethearts building our dream life in the suburbs with matching careers and a 5-year plan that was right on schedule. I still remember the way she looked at me on our wedding day, like I was her everything, until one night after years of gradual change, she uttered those words that shattered my world. Not tonight, or any night. I never imagined how those 6 words would transform my entire existence. If you are watching this right now, hit that like button and let me know where you are tuning in from. Subscribe to hear stories that might just change how you see your own relationships. Trust me, what happened next was something I never saw coming. I met Amanda at a tech conference in Seattle 7 years ago. She was presenting her research on user interface design, and I was captivated not just by her brilliant mind, but by the passionate way she spoke about creating intuitive experiences. During the networking event afterward, we found ourselves deep in conversation about everything from artificial intelligence to our favorite hiking trails in the Pacific Northwest. The connection was instant and undeniable. Our first date was at a small coffee shop overlooking Puget Sound. We talked for hours as the sun set over the water, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. By the time we left, the staff had already started stacking chairs. Neither of us wanted the evening to end. That night marked the beginning of what I thought would be our forever story. After 8 months of dating, I proposed during a weekend trip to Mount Rainier. I had planned everything, meticulously hiring a photographer to capture the moment I got down on one knee at sunrise. When she said yes, tears streaming down her face, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We celebrated with champagne in our cabin, dreaming about our future together. Our wedding was everything we had hoped for. An intimate ceremony with 60 of our closest friends and family in a rustic venue just outside Portland. Amanda looked breathtaking in her simple white dress, her auburn hair adorned with tiny wildflowers. We wrote our own vows, promising to always cherish and respect each other. The applause when we kissed as husband and wife still echoes in my memory as one of the happiest sounds I have ever heard. For our honeymoon, we spent 2 weeks traveling through Italy. We wandered the narrow streets of Florence, ate gelato by the Trevi Fountain in Rome, and took a gondola ride in Venice. At night, we would fall asleep in each other's arms, whispering about the life we would build together. Those nights in Italy were filled with passion and promises, both of which I believed would last a lifetime. The first 3 years of our marriage were blissful. We bought a charming craftsman home in a quiet neighborhood, adopted a golden retriever named Cooper, and settled into our routines. Amanda excelled at her job as a UX designer for a major tech company, while I worked my way up to senior software developer at a startup specializing in educational technology. We hosted dinner parties for friends, took weekend trips to the coast, and talked about starting a family in the near future. My career was taking off in ways I never expected. The educational app I had helped develop was being implemented in schools across the country. I was invited to speak at conferences, received an industry award for innovation, and was even approached about writing a book on accessible technology. Amanda seemed proud of my accomplishments, celebrating each milestone with genuine enthusiasm. Everything changed when Amanda joined a new personal development group called Transcend. Initially, I was supportive, happy that she was pursuing interests outside of work. She would come home from these weekly meetings, energized, talking about mindfulness, authentic living, and discovering her true self. I listened attentively, glad to see her so passionate about something. But gradually, I noticed shifts in her behavior. She started spending more time on her phone, smiling at private messages. When I would ask about her day, her answers became vague and dismissive. The physical distance grew too. What used to be natural affection, casual touches, and passionate nights became increasingly rare. At first, I tried not to overthink it. Relationships ebb and flow, I told myself. We were both busy with demanding careers. Still, I made efforts to rekindle our connection. I surprised her with flowers at work, booked reservations at her favorite restaurants, and suggested weekend getaways to places she had mentioned wanting to visit. Each attempt was met with a polite smile but little enthusiasm. The first time Amanda said she was too tired for intimacy, I understood completely. The second time, I was disappointed but patient. By the fifth consecutive rejection, accompanied by excuses ranging from headaches to early morning meetings, I began to worry. Our once vibrant physical relationship had dwindled to occasional pecks on the cheek and brief hugs that felt more obligatory than affectionate. I tried changing myself, thinking perhaps I had become too predictable or unexciting. I joined a gym, updated my wardrobe, and even took cooking classes to surprise her with gourmet dinners. I bought tickets to concerts for bands she liked, reserved spa days for her and her friends, and once even orchestrated a surprise weekend in San Francisco. Nothing seemed to make a difference in how she responded to me. The constant rejection wore on my self-esteem. I would lie awake at night, listening to Amanda breathe beside me, wondering what had changed. Was I no longer attractive to her? Had I said or done something to push her away? The questions multiplied, while answers remained elusive. I found myself avoiding initiating intimacy altogether, the fear of rejection too painful to face. After 6 months of this growing distance, I decided we needed to have an honest conversation. I planned, carefully choosing a Thursday evening when neither of us had work commitments the next day. I made her favorite meal, poured 2 glasses of the Cabernet we had discovered on our anniversary trip to Napa, and gently suggested we talk about us. Amanda seemed annoyed by my serious tone, but sat down across from me at our dining table. I started by expressing how much I loved her, how important our relationship was to me, and how I had noticed changes between us. I asked if there was something I could do differently, something she needed that I wasn't providing. Her response left me speechless. With a clinical detachment that felt like a physical blow, she informed me that she no longer felt physically attracted to me. It wasn't anything specific I had done wrong, she explained, but rather that she had evolved as a person while I had remained stagnant. Her Transcend group had helped her realize she needed more excitement and growth than our relationship could offer. When I asked if there was any way to work through this together, perhaps with marriage counseling, her words cut through me like ice. Not tonight, Benjamin. Not any night. I am just not interested in that part of our relationship anymore. I sat there stunned as she continued to explain that she still valued our partnership, our social standing as a couple, and the financial stability our marriage provided. She suggested we could continue living together as companions, maintaining appearances for the sake of our professional lives and shared friend group, all while I silently processed the fact that my wife had just reduced our marriage to a convenient arrangement. That night, as I lay alone on the guest room bed, I realized I was in a one-sided marriage. The woman I had built my life around, the future I had planned so carefully, the love I thought was unshakable, all of it had transformed without my knowledge or consent. I felt hollow, as though someone had scooped out everything that mattered inside me, leaving only an empty shell. In the weeks following Amanda's devastating declaration, I tried desperately to save our marriage. I researched relationship counselors with excellent reviews, found one specializing in rekindling intimacy, and presented the information to Amanda one evening after dinner. She glanced at the brochure, placed it back on the coffee table, and simply said, "I do not think that's necessary. This is not something that needs fixing." Her dismissal of our problems felt like another betrayal. Still, I persisted, suggesting books we could read together, weekend retreats focused on rebuilding connection, even a vacation to reconnect. Each suggestion was met with increasing irritation, until finally she snapped that I needed to accept the new reality of our relationship. One afternoon, while organizing our home office, I came across a credit card statement that had been delivered to our mailbox that day. Normally, Amanda handled most of our finances, but something compelled me to open the envelope. What I saw made my stomach drop. There were charges for luxury clothing stores, high-end restaurants I had never been to, and a weekend at an expensive spa resort, all within the past month. The total was over $6,000. When I calmly asked Amanda about these expenses during dinner, she shrugged and said she needed to invest in herself and her appearance for her career advancement. When I pointed out that some of these charges were clearly for two people, she abruptly stood up, took her plate to the kitchen, and announced she was meeting friends for drinks. She left without another word, leaving me alone with my growing suspicions and hurt. As the weeks passed, Amanda spent increasingly less time at home. She would leave early for work, claiming breakfast meetings, and return late, citing client dinners or sessions with her Transcend group. On weekends, she was rarely around, filling her schedule with shopping trips, fitness classes, and social events to which I was not invited. Our home, once filled with laughter and shared moments, became a hollow space where we merely crossed paths. I felt the profound loneliness that comes from being isolated, while technically not alone. There were moments when I would catch glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, brief flashes in her smile or laugh that gave me hope. But those moments would quickly vanish, replaced by the cool indifference that had become her default mode with me. The breaking point came on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Amanda had forgotten her phone on the kitchen counter when she went for a shower. A notification lit up the screen, and though I had never invaded her privacy before, something about the preview text made my heart race. I picked up the phone and saw a message from someone named Jordan. "Last night was amazing. Cannot wait to feel your body against mine again tomorrow." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I sat heavily on a kitchen stool, phone still in hand, trying to process what I was seeing. When Amanda walked in wrapped in her bathrobe and saw me with her phone, her expression shifted from shock to anger to a resigned sort of calm. "Who is Jordan?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "My personal trainer," she replied, making no attempt to deny what the message implied. "We have been seeing each other for a few months now." I felt physically ill. A few months. While I had been agonizing over what I had done wrong, brainstorming ways to save our marriage, she had been building a relationship with someone else. All the late nights, all the weekend absences, all explained in one devastating moment. "So everything between us, it's been over for months, and you just did not bother to tell me," I managed to ask. Amanda sat across from me, perfectly composed. "I did tell you, Benjamin. I told you I was no longer interested in that part of our relationship. What did you think that meant? I have been bored for years, going through the motions. Jordan makes me feel alive again." Each word was like a physical blow. Years I had been living in a fiction, it seemed, believing in a love that had long since died on her end. I asked if she had ever planned to tell me about the affair, and her response was chillingly pragmatic. "Why complicate things? We have a good life together on paper, a good home, financial stability. Why throw that away?" I spent that night driving aimlessly around the city, trying to make sense of my shattered reality. By morning, I had decided to move into our home office temporarily while figuring out next steps. Amanda seemed relieved by this arrangement, as though a burdensome pretense had been lifted. A week later, I discovered something even more painful. While reviewing our joint accounts, I found regular transfers to a separate account I knew nothing about. Further investigation revealed that Amanda had been diverting substantial amounts of our shared money we'd both contributed to our future, to fund gifts for Jordan, expensive watches, designer clothes, even a weekend trip to Aspen that Shed claimed was a company retreat. When confronted with this financial betrayal, Amanda was defensive and unapologetic. "We both contribute to this marriage," she argued. "I am entitled to spend our money as I see fit." The argument escalated quickly. Words were exchanged that could never be taken back. She called me controlling and pathetic. I called her deceitful and selfish. By the end of it, she demanded I move out of the master bedroom permanently, claiming it made her uncomfortable knowing I was sleeping there while she was away. So I found myself relegated to a small daybed in my home office, surrounded by reminders of the career I had built in the house I had helped pay for. Married to a woman who no longer wanted me but was content to keep the benefits of our partnership. Each night lying in that too small bed, I would hear her come home late, sometimes giggling on the phone, completely indifferent to my presence down the hall. The absolute lowest point came when I was scrolling through social media and saw photos of Amanda and Jordan at a beach resort in Mexico. She had told me she was attending a professional development conference in San Diego. There, they were arms around each other's sunset in the background, hashtags about finding true love and living authentically. The photos had been posted just hours earlier, liked and commented on by friends who knew me, who had been to our home, who had witnessed our wedding vows. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark, feeling something inside me finally break. Not my heart, which had been breaking slowly for months, but my acceptance of this situation. Something had to change, and since Amanda clearly would not, it would have to be me. 3 days after discovering the Mexico photos, I met my old college roommate Jackson for drinks at a quiet bar downtown. I had not told anyone the full extent of what was happening in my marriage, partly out of shame, partly out of lingering hope that things might somehow improve. But that night, with 2 beers giving me courage, I told Jackson everything. Instead of the pity I feared, his response was measured anger on my behalf. "Why are you letting her treat you this way, Ben?" he asked bluntly. "The woman is cheating on you, spending your money on her boyfriend, and has basically relegated you to being her roommate, and you're just taking it." Put so plainly, my situation sounded absurd. When I mumbled something about marriage vows and working through problems, Jackson leaned forward. "Marriage is about mutual respect and partnership," he said. "This isn't a rough patch, man. This is emotional and financial abuse." The word abuse stopped me cold. I had never considered my situation in those terms, but as Jackson outlined how Amanda was exploiting my commitment and resources while offering nothing in return, I could not deny the truth in his assessment. "You have got to start respecting yourself, because she sure as hell does not," Jackson continued. "Stop being her walking ATM. Stop letting her dictate the terms of your existence in your own home." That conversation was my wake-up call. Driving home, I realized I had gradually surrendered my power, my dignity, and my self-worth, while desperately trying to save a marriage that existed only in my memory. I had become a supporting character in my own life story, financing Amanda's happiness while neglecting my own. The next morning I woke with clarity and purpose I had not felt in months. I would no longer pour my energy, time, and resources into someone who valued none of them. I would redirect everything back into rebuilding myself. First, I focused on reclaiming my physical health. Years of stress and rejection had taken their toll, leaving me tired and carrying extra weight I had never had before. I researched gyms and found one with a supportive community atmosphere rather than the intimidating environment Amanda had preferred. On my first day, I was paired with a trainer named Thomas who listened to my goals without judgment. I explained that I wanted to build strength and endurance to feel comfortable in my own body again. Thomas created a program that started where I was, not where someone else thought I should be. 3 times a week I showed up and pushed myself, each session a small victory in reclaiming control. Alongside physical changes, I turned attention to a business idea I had shelved years earlier. Amanda had dismissed it as impractical, but the concept, an adaptive learning platform for children with different cognitive processing styles, had always remained close to my heart. I began dedicating evenings and weekends to developing a prototype coding until late at night in my office turned bedroom. To break out of isolation that had become my norm, I joined a cooking class at the local community college. There, among strangers united by interest in culinary skills, I found myself laughing for the first time in months. I learned to make pasta from scratch, perfect a roux and plate dishes with artistic flair. Each Tuesday evening became a bright spot in my week, providing not just new skills but new friendships untainted by my marital situation. I also reconnected with colleagues I had distanced myself from during my marriage struggles. A casual lunch with my former mentor led to an invitation to collaborate on an industry paper. Weekly basketball games with the development team from my company created a healthy outlet for stress and frustration. Gradually, I built a support network, independent of the social circles Amanda and I had shared. The changes in my routine did not go unnoticed. Amanda seemed confused by my sudden unavailability, the way I no longer waited around, hoping for her attention. When she made dismissive comments about my new activities, I simply continued without seeking her approval. Her power over my emotional state diminished with each independent choice I made. The most significant change came when I consulted with a family law attorney about my financial situation. Lauren, a straightforward professional with 20 years of experience, listened to my story without interruption, then laid out my options with brutal clarity. "You need to protect yourself immediately," she advised. "From what you've described, your wife is systematically diverting marital assets. That stops today." Following Lauren's guidance, I opened individual accounts separate from our joint finances. I did not empty shared accounts or act vindictively, but I redirected my income and a fair portion of our savings into protected accounts Amanda could not access. I documented all the unauthorized expenditures Shed made on her relationship with Jordan, creating a paper trail for potential divorce proceedings. With newfound financial independence, I revisited my startup idea with serious intent. I arranged meetings with potential investors, refined my business plan, and connected with former colleagues who might join the venture. At a tech incubator event, I met Patricia, an angel investor who specialized in educational technology. After reviewing my prototype and business strategy, she offered initial funding that would allow me to transition from concept to viable product. The day I received the investment commitment letter, I allowed myself a moment of pure, uncomplicated joy. This was my vision, my work, my future taking shape through my own efforts. I had created this opportunity, not out of desperation or escape, but from genuine passion and belief in what I could contribute to the world. Amanda's reaction to these changes evolved from confusion to irritation to something approaching panic. The first time her credit card was declined at a luxury boutique. Because I had removed her access to our main credit line, she called me in a rage. When she discovered she could no longer transfer money freely from our joint savings, she demanded an explanation. "I simply have redirected my resources toward my own priorities," I told her, using the calm, detached tone she had so often employed with me. "Since we're leading separate lives in most meaningful ways, it seemed appropriate to separate our finances as well." She was speechless, unused to this version of me that set boundaries and stood firm. In the weeks that followed, she attempted various strategies to regain control. She tried anger, accusing me of punishing her. She tried manipulation, claiming my actions were hurting our public image. When those failed, she even attempted a clumsy seduction, suggesting perhaps she had been hasty in her previous declarations about our physical relationship. I declined politely but firmly. The spell was broken. I could now see clearly what I had been blind to before. Amanda had never valued me as a partner, only as a resource. And resources, unlike people, can be redirected. As my new business gained traction and my personal transformation became more evident, Amanda began to reconsider her position. One evening, she waited up for me to return from a development meeting with my new team. She had prepared dinner, opened wine, and styled herself in ways reminiscent of our early relationship. "I have been thinking," she said, as I set down my laptop bag. "Maybe we should try to work things out between us. You seem different lately, more confident. I find that very attractive." The words that once would have sent my heart soaring now rang hollow. I thanked her for dinner, but declined to engage in any discussion about reconciliation. The woman sitting across from me was a stranger wearing the face of someone I had once loved. The realization brought not pain, but a quiet acceptance. When I did not respond as she had anticipated, Amanda grew frustrated. She mentioned that Jordan had turned out to be less successful than he had initially presented himself. She talked about missing the stability and partnership we had shared. She never once mentioned love, respect, or genuine remorse. For the first time, I felt empowered to speak my complete truth. I explained that I had learned to value myself too much to accept the arrangement she was proposing. I deserved a relationship based on mutual respect and genuine affection, not convenience or financial calculations. So did she. I added, though her path to finding it would need to be separate from mine. A week later, I presented Amanda with divorce papers prepared by Lauren. The terms were fair, splitting our assets equitably, while accounting for the funds she had diverted to her relationship with Jordan. I had decided to let go of our house, suggesting she buy out my portion if she wished to remain there. I had already found a bright apartment closer to my new office space, a place without painful memories or compromised comfort. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly civil. Without an audience to perform for Amanda, seemed to accept the inevitable end of our marriage, with the same practicality she had applied to dismissing its emotional content. Within 6 months, all paperwork was finalized, signatures in place, legal ties severed. I was officially and emotionally a free man. The initial period after the divorce was not without challenges. There were nights of questioning and self-doubt moments when memories of happier times would surface unexpectedly. I allowed myself to feel the grief for what had been lost, not just the marriage itself, but the future I had once imagined. I accepted these emotions as part of healing, neither suppressing them nor letting them consume me. Friends and family provided crucial support during this transition. My parents, who had always liked Amanda but respected my decision, helped me furnish my new place. Jackson's regular check-ins kept me from isolating during difficult days. Colleagues turned friends included me in social gatherings where gradually I relearned how to engage with others as just myself, not one half of a couple. My business continued to grow beyond initial projections. The adaptive learning platform gained attention from educational institutions across multiple states. We secured additional funding, expanded our development team, and began pilot programs in select schools. The work was challenging but deeply fulfilling, allowing me to make a tangible difference while building something meaningful from my lowest point. Through a professional connection, I met Stephanie, a curriculum developer whose insights proved invaluable to refining our product. Our collaboration was based on mutual respect and shared passion for educational accessibility. When our professional meetings occasionally extended into dinner discussions and easy conversation, I found myself enjoying female companionship without expectations or anxiety. Whether this might develop into something more remained to be seen, but I was no longer defining my worth through someone else's validation. Looking back on the journey from that devastating night when Amanda declared, "Not tonight," or any night to where I stand now, I recognize how necessary that pain was for my growth. Had she not been so brutally honest, I might have continued pouring myself into a relationship that offered no reciprocal nourishment. Her rejection, painful as it was, ultimately set me free. The most important lesson I learned was that giving everything to someone who values nothing about you is not love or dedication. It is self-erasure. True strength lies not in enduring mistreatment, but in having the courage to redirect your precious resources, your time, attention, and energy toward those who recognize their worth, including yourself. If my story resonates with you, perhaps you too are giving your best to someone or something that offers little in return. I hope you find the courage to redirect your resources toward what truly deserves them. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to prioritize your own well-being? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story helped you gain perspective, please like and subscribe to support more content like this. Remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away and reinvest in your own happiness. Thank you for listening to my journey.